So welcome everybody. This is a new education show with Dean Kevin, Dean Val, and soon to be Dean Charles, maybe future. Right now, he's a smart guy anyway. So anyway, he's here too, Charles. And so let me read something here from Duane the Great Writer first. It's has to do with education in its own way, because this is what we're trying to present, or we're doing our best to present this kind of thing to people. It's you, the real you is free now, but most people love their restrictions. This is what Duane says. This is real truth. You are already a free being of real light. And you can decide to recognize the now and be free. This now and be free. It is always up to you, the real you, which is the heart and intent of yourself. Your real awareness. Duane the Great Writer is providing a wonderful worldwide wake up, and you can take part by simply being wonderful and shining like the sun. The real adventure life is becoming more aware. Life is in love with itself, and because it is perfect, the isness it is only interested in itself and what has a real benefit for all. This is how life is, the isness it is. For most people who have been brought up with the invented belief systems, they will have no idea what I am referring to. In fact, what I am referring to as the true reality life is cannot exist at all for most people because of the huge lack of real awareness they have. What is being taught on the earth has nothing to do with the whole of life, but only absolute control. Life itself has nothing to do with any form of restriction, not in the very least. Yet, what is found all over the earth by those who control everything is nothing but purposely planned restrictions that have been seductively and psychologically implanted or implemented, like the idea of freedom here, which there really is none at all, but only an implied freedom and never the real freedom as there is with the all is. Life overall is not about hope, belief, faith, worshiping, praying, emotional happiness, and all the thrills it entails. Life is so much better and bigger than any of these, and has very little to do with the literalization that controls most people. We can start off with these ideas and others we have come to know, but there is so much more to you, the real you. What Duane is presenting now is what everyone is searching and looking for: real love and real freedom. Does it make sense to stay restricted by sound-good words and ideas from those who want to use you and constantly take what you have from yourself? You are a free being of real light, and what is meant by this is you are more than candlelight, sunlight, astral light, and so many of the other secondary ideas of light people have come to know from their controlling, cult, religions, and spiritual paths. Almost all these ideas. Okay. So we're here to help people see who they really are and to see what they really want. Most people don't even know what they want. So this is a huge challenge. And the new education courses and the university will be a major part of helping people wake up. Any comments on that reading from anybody here? Hello, Ronald, too. Welcome.
Well, thank you. I'm glad to be here and trying to figure out what's going on.
Yes, we all
Yes,
are.
we all are.
Yes. So we're just becoming more aware of what we don't know. And we're already aware of what we know, so that's no biggie, but what are we not aware of? That's the challenge here. And that's where the adventure lies, and that's where the reality lies, you know, that part.
You know, I was thinking about all of this, and I was just trying to think, how was it that I got started into this? And I just remembered that my neighbor had some books, and she threw one book away, and I just picked it up and looked at it. And there was a story about a young girl in there who wanted to go so bad to school dance, but she was restricted from going to that dance, that she went in her bed and somehow she was able to transport herself to the dance. And when I got into that book, I don't know, it just clicked. It's how weird it is. You never know. Mm-hmm. And I think that's how it is with people. You don't know. You might just say one magical word. It might just click with them. Or you might spend all day talking about nothing. It's weird. Mm-hmm. I thought I'd kick that in.
Thank you, Ronald. Yeah, that's cool. Cool story.
Yeah.
Comments on that?
I think it's a great story, and I think whatever inspires somebody to, look into things. I think I was trying to get out of body when I was younger, and that's how I got started. And we call it astral projection and all that, and that's valuable. But for a while in the beginning, I was having experiences on the level, that Kevin was having them, except that I couldn't evaluate them the way Kevin does, because Kevin gives like very detailed explanations of what he sees happening, which I find very valuable. Thank you, Kevin. But further, I also started to understand things differently. When I started doing research, I looked into basically where the hue came from in Eckankar, and that started to disturb me because I found a section where Albert Pike actually said that hue was an ancient name for Satan. Now, the problem that Pike had was that he was not very knowledgeable in certain areas. He wrote some books and stuff, but the thing is that he equated Lucifer with Satan. And I happen to know, since he was a Mason, his background was essentially, Masonic, of course, but what he was saying essentially is that the god of the Masons is Hugh, which of course is the chant for Eckankar. And that created a little bit of a disturbance. And so I had to research that much further. And in the process, I started understanding that the whole concept of Luciferianism is really about bringing light or knowledge into the human. This was really a big conflict because, I was born Greek Orthodox. My background was originally very Christian. I was raised in a Jewish family, but that's a whole different thing. But the point is how to reconcile this very deeply Christian ingrained concept of Lucifer being the devil, which is not true. How to reconcile that with what we're facing now, because here we're learning. This is about light. This is about bringing light into the consciousness. So that's a tough one. These are things that have to be considered. It means there's a lot of stuff that we have to let go of, and a lot of these are preconceived notions. So I thought I'd throw that out there. I'm curious as to what anybody might have to say. We are educating ourselves.
Isn't that the trick? You want to turn people off, you put a negative twist to it.
Well, I'm
I-
actually saying that here because you're here, Ronald. I'm not trying to say anything negative towards you. What I'm saying is these are the people that I'm most likely to ask this question to, and nobody else is here so far. So this is not something I would pose in front of kids. All I was talking about was it's a very heavily Christian concept about God versus the devil. Okay. Even though they really are the same thing, they really come from the same source. A lot of things that I learned about early on in life, I used to study Hinduism. I've studied Buddhism. I've studied, a lot of these things at a cursory level. But one thing that all the Christians have told me always is that all these religions are Luciferian. In their minds, that means they're working with the devil. These other religions are all, being functionally controlled by the devil. And that's not what Lucifer is. Lucifer is a much more ancient concept that goes way back before Christianity. Satan is a creation of a much later time, totally different persona, just a whole different being. So the reason why I bring it up, though, is because I found out that the hue in Eckankar, which is the main word that everybody chants, is actually the same word that they use for evoking Lucifer in the Masons. If you know anything about Albert Pike was like one of the quintessential Masons. He was also at one point head of the Illuminati. And all the cabal that we're facing now, all these really terrible people have an association through the Masons with the Illuminati. That's the top of the pyramid is actually Catholicism, which people find very hard to accept. But that's the thing, is that the Pope he's not here to do the world any good. That's for sure. He's here to control us. And same thing with the people right under him, which essentially would be the Jesuits, etc. Without going through the whole pyramid, it's important to understand that this is all Luciferian. Okay. And that's, but the thing is, people don't understand what Luciferianism means. And that's a problem because essentially, it's a lot of people use it in terms of, they replace the word God with Lucifer. And that's a little hard to accept when you've been in Eckes for 31 years and you find out all of a sudden that that's the name that you've been using is Lucifer's other name. So you'll find all kinds of excuses about this for this in Eckankar. But the point is, we have to decide for ourselves, really, what are we trying to do? Christians are very powerful, and I really think Christians are beautiful people until they start proselytizing and they start telling me that I've got to read the Bible and believe in Jesus. Well, here's the thing. I've been educating myself, which is considered to be Luciferian, in that I'm bringing light into my own consciousness. I'm trying to enlighten myself. So that being the case, I'm sort of at odds with Christianity. And in some ways, I'm sort of at odds with Eckankar. They basically came down to, you have to decide. It's going to be one or the other.
Hey guys. Hey. Yes, we had graduations the week before last, and then Jeffrey Clayton's 8th birthday last weekend. So it's been hectic, but we're good. How are y'all? We're just day-to-day stuff. So I'll listen in.
Well, we love to hear about what's going on, because you're in the field, you're in the front lines. So this is just down the alley here, what we're doing with the new education. We're helping the children wake up as well as adults, but really particularly children as they come in. And you're giving us, the experiences that they're having as they come through, different ages and stuff. Maybe you can talk about that. Have you seen them become more aware through the different ages?
Let me just start with the last few weeks. I don't particularly like to attend. Hopefully the people that we did, my niece and my nephew, attending their graduations, they don't hear this, but even if they do, they know that I don't particularly like attending these public school events. I find they're quite daunting in a sense for me. So taking the children and going through the entire process of these educational graduation experiences was helpful this year, because the year prior, obviously, this was the first graduations that our family members have had. So mine haven't gotten to do it live and in person. They see it on videos, and they see it on movies that we've watched. They see graduation experiences. So in a sense, it was daunting and very challenging for me to have to go through all this process of it. But meaning I don't really like attending graduations. It's all wonderful and everything for the kids that are in the process of who have been in the educational system for so long. They feel but it's a great accomplishment. They did all these years in the educational system, and here they are in this one big day, and all this stress and all this craziness involved in this one day. And with this particular year, the graduations are just out of control. I mean, from just the entire experience. So in a sense, it was daunting, and on my behalf of being just totally worn out with having to deal with the circus show that's going on, from masks to clear bags to not having your phone out, all these controlling things that they're doing now. That's where I just get a bit frustrated, where I don't really want to participate. I don't really want to have to go through with it. But, my niece and nephew, this was their big day. For all these years they've been in their indoctrination camp. They're like, that was the big day. So in a sense, I educated the children before going to the graduations on what we would be experiencing, everything behind it, the process while you're sitting in there. And one of them was outdoors, actually. That was interesting. I've never seen or been to an outdoor high school graduation. But so it was great to walk the children through the graduation process for them to see, because they will not be having that experience, but it's a heavily marketed experience to have on this planet right now. So graduations are a huge deal, especially, I'm not quite sure in other countries, but I have to say for the USA, it's a big deal. It's one of the biggest Americanized, marketed graduation, heavily marketed. I said that probably the third time, events. It's a heavily marketed event. So, to walk the children through that experience, being on the front lines of that, walking through Willow, she's only 6, Jeffrey Clayton just turned 8, Raymond, he's 13 going on 14, walking them through it in an in-person experience was wonderful in the sense of that. But the entire process is not so wonderful for us. It was uncomfortable, daunting, frustrating, just really ridiculous. But that's probably a downer for those who have been through the process, who feel like, oh, this is a wonderful day, it's a great accomplishment, but allowing the children to see that type of event, I'm talking that everything start to finish. You've got all the speakers, all the principal, all the rules and regulations before you can even walk into the event. You've got controlling aspects. You've got the long talks that are all about beliefs and freedom and all of this stuff that isn't, I was going to say isn't real, but it's real in the sense for those people because they're in that part of their journey. But for us, that's not where we are. So it's sometimes I explain to the children, it will be a challenge as you grow up to have to be able to acclimate yourself to situations like this. In a sense, dumbing yourself down, but not quite dumbing. It's just being trained to know how to be present, be supportive, understand that that's their journey, not yours, but then understand and recognize the entire system and all of that hullabaloo for what it is, meaning it's just this big event that's surrounded around these big lies that people are totally entranced with. And it definitely is a challenge to walk the children through such a big event that they don't really quite understand, and also that they won't have that experience personally. They will only have the experience by going to other people's graduations. So then walking them through those feelings of caring for their one-dimensional feelings about it not happening to them or for them, and not feeling left out in a sense. So allowing them to compartmentalize those one-dimensional feelings as they get older, to recognize it's okay that they're not having that experience this lifetime. So on the front lines of that, I'll just end there that it was a challenge to go to an entire weekend of these experiences, of graduation experiences, because it is not just stressful for the people graduating, but it's stressful for the family and friends. And it's just overload. For me, it's just overload. I've gotten to the point where the children and I live such a simple life, pack it up and go for a hike, really pack it up and go to the beach for a day, just really simple life, barefoot, just easy breezy. And then for these events, it's totally opposite of how we live. You've got to dress up, you've got to bring this, you've got to make sure you have this, it's just these society standards, these society have-tos. And the children got to see how stressful that was. And did it really mean much? Her flowers went in the back seat, the necklaces we gave her and gave him, and the gifts and everything. Where are they? Probably nowhere. What a waste of money, just the time that we sat there sweating our bums off. It just in a sense was wonderful that they got to experience it. Wonderful that our family members graduated from their years and years of time that they've put in these educational systems. But it was quite daunting on the front lines of walking through 3 children through the feelings and training them and, just hand-holding them through this type of experience that they will not be having in this particular lifetime. So I'll end it there. And if you want to ask questions or someone else wants to talk, but that was just one of the weekends. The other weekend was Jeffrey Clayton's birthday last weekend. So we were, just no electronics, just being with him, and a lot of outside, a lot of sweating. Here in Texas, it's already suffocating heat. So trying to make sure we're staying hydrated, but being outside and continuing with our garden and our acreage is really hard it's not hard to maintain, but it's a lot to maintain. You can't miss a day. If you miss a day, we're behind a day. So yeah, thanks for listening.
Yeah, Wendy, well articulated. Yeah, so how did your kids respond to not being part of the system? I mean, this is a whole big deal, but as things like this come up, particulars like this, like how did they respond to this event?
Well, so for Raymond, he's sorry, I'm sweating really. I don't know if any of y'all are in Texas, but I told the children, just a side note, but 3 or 4 days ago, I woke up and I had a real side experience that we were going to hit record numbers this summer and that I needed to prepare. And so there's things that I've been putting in place, preparing for this summer for record heat, basically. It's not fear. It's just was a real side experience. And I woke and then I had the knowing of what I need to do to prep for this summer, these coming months, for these record numbers it's not that I foresaw it. It's just a knowing that we're going to have some intense heat. The heat down here, if you visit Texas, it's just quite suffocating. I'm literally just drenched, just sitting outside for just these brief minutes here. But that's just a side note. For Jeffrey Raymond, he's really unique because sometimes it takes me a little bit longer, a little bit more. Ray is just so easygoing that it's a challenge, because when I ask him, how do you feel? Do you feel like you're, just walking through well checks? We do quite a few well checks. So when I walk through well checks with them, Ray just says, Mom, I'm really okay. I don't really want to do that. So Raymond, he says, he's just so easy breezy. He just says, Mom, I really don't want to do this. I really wouldn't want to do this, even if I were in a public school process. So for Raymond, he's just like, Mom, I'm good. Raymond is basically like this. He's the one going on 14. Mom, I'm good. I promise. I'm happy to be here for my cousins and everything's great on that end, but I'm good. And I don't feel that I'm missing out. And I don't have any feelings of this is something I need to do in my life, something I needed to accomplish. So Raymond, he's quite secure, and I have to rest easy on allowing that trust between he and I. For communication is so important between the children and I, because I explained to them that my entire childhood, there wasn't any communication. Being an abused child, I had everything inside. There wasn't anyone I could trust. When I did tell people things, they didn't help me. So I always tell them, just let's keep it open and easy, because we are who we have. This is who we have this lifetime. We don't have tons of family here, tons of family there. My nephew and niece that we just went to their graduations, I haven't been in contact with them for, we're talking a long time, almost 8 years. So we just recently picked up talking to my brothers to be able to have been invited to go to these graduations. So it's not like we've had these particular family members around us for the past few years. We haven't. I just opened the floodgates to try to repair with 2 of my brothers and see what we can do with our brothership, and allow the children to have other people, their uncles and their cousins, in their life, and see where their family ships can go with each other, since my brothers and I are not seemingly keeping it together. And we had a 2-year non-talk for a little while. So Raymond, he's pretty easy, just saying, Mom, I'm fine without that. Jeffrey Clayton, he's more of, and I told Jeffrey Clayton and Willow as I was talking to them about this, because I really do walk them through the steps almost. And I know I miss a few beats, but I explained to them before we go to the event, on the way to the event, during the event, after the event. I kind of just check in with them, not way overly like helicopter mom. I'm talking casual. Like I've had enough training to know how to navigate through the children and navigate through their feelings, and when to say things and when to ask things and when to kind of hold off and how long to wait to let them talk. So communication is important. I tell the children, if we don't get it out of the physical body, then we're harboring it inside the physical body, and it's not good for our physical body to keep it all inside. So let's just get it out. If you need to walk outside and tell it to the air, go walk outside and tell it to the air and tell it to life itself. If you need to tell it to one of your friends, tell it to one of your friends, but get it out somehow, whatever it is, because it festers and then it will just take on a life of its own. So Jeffrey Clayton, when I talked to him, his feelings were, Mom, I would like to do that, but what do I get out of that? And so I told him, well, what you get is these kids, and we saw my niece and nephew before they went on. We actually picked up each one and dropped them off at the event, because their parents were getting things and doing things. So for both different graduations, we were actually the last ones to hand off them before they went into where they have to sit for an hour and a half before they even walk out to the event. So, and I told Jeffrey Clayton, I said, they're scared. Both of them were just like nervous beyond belief. I said, this is just too much emotional stress, and I remember going through it only for college. I graduated 2 years early in high school, so I didn't go to a physical graduation. I spent 2 years in high school doing the additional 2 years of summer school to graduate early. So I did not go to my high school year graduation. So I didn't have that experience, but I did have a college graduation that I went to, which was very daunting as well. I told the children, what you get is this stress, emotional stress to walk across the stage, this feeling of accomplishment for what? I paid to go to college. I paid for all my books. I paid for the time to be there. And for me, it was quite a waste for the particular industry that I was in. And I was way better off in the field. And so anyhow, point is I told Jeffrey Clayton, what you get is these senses of feeling, and it's based on, feeling and based on one-dimensional accomplishment. So there's a lot of things that you get, Jeffrey Clayton. You get, a diploma. You get this thing that's, on this thingy, and you get the support from your family saying, great job for all these years you put your nose in the books, and great job for all the testing and memorization. And you get all these one-dimensional things. That's what you get, is a one-dimensional experience. And so he kind of just sat back and yes, honey. Hold on just a minute.
My hello, the greenhouse is not working.
Okay, I'll come plug it in.
Plug.
I'll come plug it in. Do you want to say hello to everyone?
Hello.
So I explained to him what you get is a lot of one-dimensional stuff. With Willow, she didn't really have anything. She's sick, so the concept was she understands the graduation, but she didn't have much of a like feedback, just that she was uncomfortable, she was hungry, and she was very tired when each one of them were over. So for Willow, she on the front lines for her, she understood the concept of what it was, but she didn't have quite a lot of input like Jeffrey Clayton and Raymond. They just were very simple. Raymond was, hey mom, I can do without that. Jeffrey Clayton was, well, what do I get? What did I get out of that whole thing? What do I get for all of that? So that sums that up.
Well, you did a good job. That one hurdle passed for them. That's great. Does anybody have questions for Wendy?
Just a comment. I think you're doing great. That's about.
Oh, thank you, Charles. Thank you very much. It's a challenge out here with 3 of them in such different age groups, and there's a lot going on in the world that, wow, it's just incredible what's going on. I'm blown away every day that we are here. And I have to admit, I had 3 days coming off of that. So last week I had 3 days where I was extremely depleted, and I told the kids, mommy needs some mental days, some mental well days where I had, a nap every single day for 2 or 3 hours. It just was a lot. It's very challenging for me to be out and around people anymore. So I work heavily on that because it affects the children as well. When, there's events that I need to take them to or things like that. So it's a challenge. That's for sure.
I believe it. Sometimes I wish I had been a parent just for the experience, but I admire you for doing what you're doing.
Have you found some good parents so you could share a parent day, or so you could leave them with somebody?
Oh no, I don't do that. No, I have a thing about that. So there's no sleepovers, and they don't go to anyone's house that we haven't known for years. I attribute that to just watching a lot of documentaries on things that have happened to children, and the one that really hit the nail in the coffin was the Michael Jackson one. That just really hit it for me, where I just cannot ever allow it's just that 1 minute, it's even where my children, when we go out, they cannot go into a restroom where it's an, open stalls. My sons, it's just one time, so they have drill. We perform, I train the children. We have alpha drills, which are different experiences, especially the one where if they're ever in a restroom, to be able to defend themselves quickly from anyone trying to grab them or harm them. I just have a thing about my kids, about the children. It just takes one time and one experience to just so I hope I don't want to talk anymore about that, but I don't allow the kids to really go anywhere for long periods of time where I'm not present or I'm not, nearby. I don't suffocate them, but I need to be nearby, and it needs to be where I can kind of monitor from a distance what's going on, and what's being presented to them and what's being shown to them. And these devices these devices are whoa, so yeah.
You have to be super careful in this day and age. So it's frightening. I look at what's going on in California right now, and oh my God. And it's actually happened in Texas too. One of the most famous stories about this woman who wants one of her 2 sons to become a woman, or basically a girl. She wants to raise him as a girl. And they're talking about transgender surgery. And I'm saying to myself, you've got a lot of crazy people, even in Texas. It was always such a conservative state when I was growing up. I can't imagine what it'd be like living there in a circumstance where there's actually legal precedence for this sort of thing to happen. Frightening. It's like being a parent in this day and age. I don't blame you one bit. You know, you're not a helicopter parent. It doesn't seem that way. It seems more like you're just very, very, attentive, and that's a good thing. Seriously, you're doing great. From everything that I've been hearing you say, it sounds wonderful.
Yeah, we like to check in with Wendy once in a while, so make sure she's okay. So she's got a lot.
I didn't know that for what's going on in Texas. I'll definitely look into that. I do keep a heavy, close eye on the Texas Homeschool Coalition. That's the only thing that I give money to, because they fight for our homeschool rights and keep things kind of in order. But that's interesting that that's going on in Texas, because Texas, it's hard to get things passed because the people here they fight hard for things.
Well, it's a good state in a lot of ways. I have to say, I'm impressed because overall they've managed to keep most of this out. But this one woman just has it in her head that her son is her daughter, and it's only one case that I'm familiar with there, but it's very common in California. In California, they're doing everything they can it's part of the depopulation agenda. And actually, transgenderism is on the rise because of states like California, and also because of some of the chemicals they're putting in the food and the water, one of them being atrazine, which causes gender dysphoria. And they play it up to death in California. Basically, you're not really a man or a woman until we tell you are. And so whatever it is, they'll go as far as to get surgery for these kids. It's frightening. So I'm not saying this to scare you. I'm just telling you, be happy where you are, because Texas is actually pretty much against that. It's just this one case got through, and I'm not sure how she's doing it. I don't know, what the circumstances are, but this is not something that I would find acceptable, not if I were raising kids. So,
Tim or Kevin, do you have any questions or comments?
Well, I was just going to ask, in the state of Texas, what the impact of the electromagnetic pollution and how severe that is in where you live, how bad the chemtrails are, and indeed what restrictions are constantly being escalated in response to this so-called pandemic, and how that is sort of impacting you and your children's situation there.
Well, I meant to ask you about that, Kevin, at some point. I'd like to get together just to find out what is happening in the UK concerning chemtrails, the chemical pollution, and also especially the 5G. But because Trump, when he was in office, actually stopped some of the 5G promotion. But the thing is, we're still getting it again. It's actually coming back for whatever reason, and I'm trying to find out really how it's affecting people. So they've proven. I mean, it's patented. It's a patented technology. Microwaves can influence people's emotions and what people do, and it's like kind of like a weapon. But anyway, as far as Texas is concerned, I had always thought that there was not quite one of the states that's really focused on all that. But so Wendy, are you in southern Texas, or are you where are you located in Texas?
And I'm probably 45 minutes from downtown Houston. So in a place called Sienna Plantation. Actually, with how sensitive the world is getting, they just removed plantation from all of our area, and now it's just called Sienna, Texas. You no longer can use plantation. So, but that's what it used to be called. So we live probably 40 to 45 minutes from downtown Houston. As far as Kevin, I didn't quite understand what that was on the electromagnetic. I didn't quite understand that, so I didn't want to bypass what you said. I don't think I understood clearly what you were asking, but right now, I mean, we don't have any restrictions where we live. If that's what you're asking. But for Texas, it's a hit or miss on a lot of these things. I don't usually find them out until way after they've been approved or the new law is happening. So
I would just say what I think Kevin was alluding to, if I may, is basically just that we are being bombarded with microwaves, throughout the country. I don't think it's as bad in Texas as it is on the East Coast and also on the West Coast. The two coasts get it really bad, and especially in Los Angeles and also New York. So, but there are issues with that, and you sounded a little bit out of breath, so I don't really want to broach the subject right now. I think actually whatever it is that you're in the middle of, if you can sit down and relax and just talk to us, that'd be great. But I'm worried about stressing you out. You sounded very, very out of breath.
Oh no, I'm fine now. I had to run back. I forgot that I left the sprinkler on the tomatoes. So all the tomato plants, which we have 6 different varieties, I left the sprinkler on for a bit too long. So I was running back as I recalled that I left the sprinkler on. I normally have timers. So, you turn the timer dial and then it'll just sprinkle for that period of time. But I had to reroute some hoses because one of the hoses had a bubble and then the whole hose burst. So I had to, when you're having to do everything, on the acreage and everything by myself, I have to figure out a lot of the water irrigation stuff. So when I learned about 2 years ago that you don't have to throw hoses out, you can actually just clip where the issue happened and then just buy one of the hose menders. You can screw in the hose mender in anyway. So I was running back to turn that off, but I haven't put on the sprinkler dial on that one and switched it over yet. So that's what, but no, I'm not stressed. Here in Texas, there is, what I can say to that is that the kids are heavily into their devices. So I guess to venture into what you're saying, out of 9 out of 10 kids that you will see in the area are inside on their devices all the time. So I would like to say that in a sense, the kids are being heavily marketed as far as their devices, but I don't know about like the waves. I just know that these kids are totally entranced. They are heavily deluded into the games, into the wants and needs. Our particular area that we live, to give you an example of what I'm actually trying to say here. But no, I'm not stressed. I was only out of breath because I had to run back there. But the children in our area, and I really don't like to say this, but it's a wealthy area in the sense that our homes are quite costly. The area is a well-desired area to live in. So it's an area that's well established on being basically parents come out here to buy in the school district. They don't come out here to buy in this area to be homeschoolers. So that's why we don't have a lot of homeschoolers in our particular community. We have to venture out just a little bit to be, I mentioned that in other calls with you guys that, we have to venture out to Arcola, Fresno, Katy, a lot of outer cities just to be able to find and interview and get to know families because there's not a large population of homeschooling families in our area. So, but basically a lot of these children out here, I would have to say it feels like there's a magnet and feels like there's waves being sent into these kids that we are around. It's usually a challenge for my children to be around a lot of the children in this area because of the way that they are. I don't know if that's coming out right. I think I'm going to end right there on that, but I'm just going to say that in a sense, my children will tell me often, what's wrong with those kids? And we'll sit down and we'll evaluate, why they didn't like playing with those children or what was it that was challenging for them to be around those children or things like that. So in a sense, my children can get along well with a lot of children from different backgrounds, different ethnicities, different upbringings. A lot of the children they're around are heavily into belief systems. So mine are trained already to be able to navigate and be friends with all types of people. But it's becoming quite a nuisance for my children to be around a lot of children that are quite different. They're quite different. you know, I don't know how to say it. Maybe someone else could chime in. I think we're all experiencing it because I told my children, this is what you're growing up with. You need to prepare. You need to prepare that you've got children who are 10 and they are saying that they are not a boy or a girl, and they want respect for that. They want you to bow down to their whole category of what they're creating. And this creating is not going to stop as long as humans are here on this planet. So creation will always continue to be a cyclistic thing that you are going to need to navigate through. And it's best if we don't have one-dimensional feelings of hate or disdain or disgust. Mommy might be a bit frustrated sometimes, but that's because mommy's come through so much, and I'm quite exhausted. I'm often very exhausted with being here. And so that's something that they have to experience, that I have to work through, that I'm always working through, is often when I get overwhelmed with being here on this planet. So the kids will say, Mommy sometimes doesn't want to be on this roller coaster ride anymore. And they understand that there's days when they know I'm just exhausted with all of this here. And that listen, it is a challenge when you get this far. When you get this far and get to all this information, go through so much training with the real guides, with the real side, with yourself, with all your other bodies, with all the information here, with the deep, deep, dark secrets with this planet. When you get so into all the rabbit holes that take you into the red center of this planet, you often have days where you're exhausted being here. Now I wake up and I'm happy, and I'm happy to be with my children, but then I'll get these overwhelming sense, or I'll see something, or they're advertising big butts as being something like fantastic. And I have to, you know, redirect my daughter on understanding that that's not a body that, you know, she should be, you know, it's just like they're marketed so young that it's extremely exhausting for me as a parent. To when it's on everything, they put it in all the ads on the games, even educational games that they have. It's everywhere that you look around. We cannot escape it, even if we have very little time on our electronic devices and very little time on social media. But I'm not raising them to have no social media time and no electronic or internet time. I give them doses at a time, and we go through things together. Like we just watched the new movie Infinite, which is about past lives with Mark Wahlberg. That was a really great movie for your reel to reel thingy, if y'all want to watch that. I watch a lot of movies with the children, and we walk through a lot of the movies together. So they see a lot of things in these movies, but in a sense, I screen them and then walk through the movies with them. You know what I mean? So it's just a challenge here. The children are different, but mine have to grow up with these children, even when they're being raised so different. So think of like a bag full of, I don't know, jelly beans. Mine are like the really rare, you know, like multicolored ones. They have to grow up with all these other children that are seemingly alike, and mine are being raised so extremely different that it's only like a few out of 100,000 that are being raised this way. So it's a bigger challenge for mine to grow up, rather than just being a fellow sheep in the flock of it. I think y'all get what I'm saying. It's hard for me to bring all the words together, you know. Sometimes I feel like all these words that we have, it's just not enough words for sometimes what I'm trying to say.
What the children like to do the most, singing, gardening, or whatever? Do they have something that stands out?
Yes, mine have a huge obsession with Legos. They love Legos, and also they love swimming in our pool. So usually not a day goes by that they're not in the pool for several hours. I'm talking sometimes up to 5-6 hours they're in the pool. Definitely not in the peak times of the heat here, but usually they're in the pool, and they love Legos. That's where a bulk of our extra little spending money goes. Legos are so expensive. So they are Jeffrey's party that we just had was based around Legos. I could tell you that all three of them have probably had 2 or 3 Lego themed little birthdays. So usually it's spending a lot of time creating new things, building new things. Jeffrey Clayton is quite a master at creating some pretty cool Lego stuff. So mine love gardening because that's the bulk of what we do. They also have companies where it's built around a lot of bamboo. So they work with two different species of bamboo. And right now they're doing a bulk of growing 6 different types of clumping bamboo. So that's really fun for them because they're trying to move out of the invasive species into the non-invasive species. So we grow a lot of vegetables and fruits, so they enjoy that. We love bike riding. They love going to new places to hike and do stuff like that. So yeah, but I'd have to say number 1 for all 3 of them would be Legos.
NUUU.
Jeremy?
NUUU.